This video is brought to you in collaboration with wowhead.com.
Hello everyone.
The armistice is signed. At long last, the Fourth War is over.
The Fourth War has come to an end. A cutscene shown after getting rid of the old god N'Zoth. But what exactly is considered the Fourth War? How did it start? What major things happened in between? And what might the future be for the factions? That is what we're going to talk about today. For those of you curious, the First War is considered to be the time that the Horde invaded Azeroth for the first time. Stormwind fell and the Alliance of Lordaeron was formed. The Second War is the continuation of that war, so the Alliance fighting back. Then the Third War is a little bit later on, the war against Archimonde and the Burning Legion. Basically, the events of Warcraft 3. And now the Fourth War, or the Blood War as they call it. A name wisely chosen, as the blood of Azeroth played a big factor in all of this. The mad Titan Sargeras plunged a massive sword deep into the heart of the nascent Titan within the world. Gravely wounded, Azeroth's life essence bled to the surface and formed an extraordinary material called Azerite. As both Alliance and Horde leaders soon recognized, Azerite's unique properties, it could be used for great good or for terrible evil. King Anduin Wrynn sensed its potential to heal and protect, but War Chief Sylvanas Windrunner saw a potent weapon unlike any the world had known before. Presented to her by Gallywix, the first to get his hands on Azerite, even before Sargeras had stabbed the world.
This will change everything.
It was January 19th, 2018, when I uploaded a video called Horde is the Aggressor, or Are They?, in which I discussed why I thought that the Horde was once again being the aggressor, rather than taking this opportunity and have the Alliance start the war. Give it a bit of a different start than what we saw during Mr. Pandaria and the bombing of Theramore. While opinions were divided, and although that like to dislike bar, it definitely took a hit, I did very much enjoy the discussions that followed and people's viewpoints of who was being aggressive. Did the Alliance have any right to stop the Horde from claiming Azerite? And what about the history between the factions? Who was truly responsible for the Fourth War? And while a lot of fun was had with discussing it, the novel Before the Storm, it removed any real doubts. In it, we read about an attack on the Explorers League to kidnap Sephronetta Flivers and have her produce weapons for the Horde. She would actually fall back in love with the Goblin Grizik Fliswrench and escape the Horde to join the Alliance. But the most important, defining moment for the start of the Fourth War, that comes after a union between Forsaken and humans to get a small seed of peace going between the factions. And when in Sylvanas, they had agreed to have friends and loved ones meet. Friends and loved ones amongst the Forsaken and the Alliance reunite. The meeting, it went so well that some amongst the Forsaken, they did not want to go home. They asked Kalia Menethil to stand with them, lead them away, which she did, an act that the War Chief could not exactly appreciate. Any who tried to run away or even run back to the Forsaken were shot down. Kalia receiving an arrow from the Banshee Queen herself, and then Anduin and Sylvanas, they come face to face. Whereas she ruled with an iron fist, he ruled with compassion. Neither of them was ready for a war, and Anduin said a silent prayer that Sylvanas would not start one. And the Banshee Queen didn't. There would be no war between the Alliance and the Hordes, at least not on that day. So regardless of past motivations that we can bring up, like the Horde abandoning the Alliance on the Broken Shore, Greymane and the Alliance attacking Sylvanas in Stormheim, the Purge of Dalaran, the bombing of Theramore, Camp Terrajo, the fall of Gilneas, internment camps, opening of the Dark Portal, regardless of how far we want to go back to figure out motivation behind the characters for wanting this war, the book itself, it makes it very clear that the war did not start until after the meeting in the Arathi Highlands. Meaning that the war started with the invasion of Darkshore, also known as the War of the Thorns. The reason back then, at face value, it seemed to be a way for Sylvanas to take care of the threat of the Alliance. Get rid of your enemy, and the hell that's waiting for her, it would be waiting that much longer. As she explained to Saurfang, they might be able to get a peace going with Anduin leading the Alliance, but exactly how long would that peace last? The history between the Alliance and the Horde, it has shown us one thing. They're really good at crafting Warcraft. With Azerite on the table, empowering their weapons and armor, what better time than to get rid of their enemy, rather than hope for a peace that will most likely not last. But with the Shadowlands announcement, we know that it's no longer about prolonging her inevitable afterlife, eternal torment, which she discovered after throwing herself from the top of Icecrown. Now we know that she's also in league with the Jailer. By sending souls his way, Anima, she gains more power. A system that's not available to us quite yet. She has her own little covenant, and while the details of their partnership and ultimate motivations, they will be explained later. One thing is for certain, sending souls to the afterlife, it has greatly empowered her. So whether or not she would win the war with the Alliance, she could not lose her ultimate goal. Loss of life was guaranteed. With Saurfang convinced, she knew that the rest of the Horde leaders would fall in line. Their plan is to make the Alliance believe that they're going to focus on Sylvanas with the Azerites, while actually sending their eyes on the home of the Night Elves. Take care of their leaders and inflict a mighty blow. Capture the World Tree to splinter the unity amongst the Alliance. Hold its citizens hostage would prevent them from retaliating. It would even take them years to muster a fleet to even try to do so. Anduin, in his new role of High King, he would have to deal with a political crisis, since the respect that the others show him, it's a courtesy, not so much an obligation. The strength of the Alliance, it lies in its name, its unity. And as each nation would act in its own interest, draw their armies home to protect their lands from the Horde, this one single victory, it would cripple it for years. Pretty solid plan. And while the Night Elves did try to fight back, the Horde's aggression, it was unexpected and too much to handle. This, they knew, was a battle they couldn't win. While their forces are trying to hold off the Horde, their people are evacuated to Stormwind through portals, and when time runs out, they make ready for occupation. Meanwhile, Sylvanas hunts down her targets, Malfurion Stormrage, and she ends up in a one-on-one duel, interrupted by Varrock Saurfang, who comes to his warchief's aid. She decides, for some reason, to let Saurfang take the kill, but the old soldier does not. The blow inflicted was dishonorable, in his eyes anyways, so Malfurion is saved by his beloveds, while Saurfang, he returns empty-handed to his warchief.
Burn it! Burn it!
Despite the tree and its citizens being so critical for the rest of their plans, the warchief goes ahead and decides to burn the tree, inflicted wounds that the death of one of the leaders was supposed to cause in a completely different way. Burn all the elves and send their souls flying to the maw. The battle that the elves could not win, it does not end in an occupation. It ends in a roaring fire, the genocide of their people. Mia Greymane is saved by her husband Gen at the last moment, which brings her back safely to Stormwind. In her arms is the last child of the Kaldorei to be saved from Teldrassil. They name it Finel, the last, and the priestesses who remained behind held their people close, asking Elune for one final blessing. Not for healing or for rescue. They ask for mercy. There will be justice one day, but eyes other than theirs will behold it. Elune actually answered their call and let them slip into slumber before the fires consumed them.
Holding those you love, listen.
That is where it all began, and with no hostages, the Alliance was free to retaliate with the siege of Lordaeron. Now the warchief shows that she does not care about honor in battle, she only cares about results, with switching her tactics from dropping blight on their own troops, resurrecting the fallen in on death, blowing up the entirety of Lordaeron, anything it takes to take out her enemy. While Magni wants us to gather Azerite to heal the world, we also use it to empower ourselves, as well as make weaponry. A massive tank is rolled out, weaponized Azerite being shot all over the place, and the Alliance would have lost the siege to these brutal tactics several times over. But luckily, some aid does show up for the Alliance. For example, Derek Proudmoore returning in a flying ship, her magic saving the day. Illyria and the Void Elves, a new allied race that shows up just in time to teleport in more troops. And Saurfang was about ready to seek his death in combat after witnessing the horrors of Teldrassil burning. But Sakun, he was able to convince him to stay with them, long enough to see that his warchief, she did not see the Horde in the same way as he did. He could not follow her lead and decided to try and find death in battle. Not his choice to make though. Instead, Anduin imprisons the High Overlords, and after Lordaeron is blown up, neither side can claim true victory. The war continued on, with both sides gathering more Azerites, land, and forces to call their own. The Alliance reconnects with Kaltiris, bringing their old ally back into the fold. The Hordes, they meet up with the Zandalar trolls and add their numbers to their ranks. I already mentioned the Void Elves as that newly added playable race to the Alliance. On top of that, we also saw the Lightforged Draenei, Dark Iron Dwarves and the Mechanomes. While the Hordes, they got the Nightborn, High Mountain Tauren, Magar Orcs, and the Valpera. Those are the allied races that have joined the factions. And besides sorting out the troubles in Zandalar and Kaltiris, a big part of the Fourth War it played out in the war campaign. I know, very surprising with such a name, yet the Hordes, it didn't go in with a solemn plan. They just kinda stumbled upon the next thing to do. What started with establishing a better foothold leads to grabbing the corpse of Captain Stone, and once you got one of them, why not gather more corpses and gather some information from them about the Kaltiran fleets? To track down such a hero with the knowledge we require, we recruit and raise the Tide Sage Zelling to have him help locate the body. While underwater searching for this hero, we accidentally stumble upon the body of Derek Proudmoore, who, for those unfamiliar, is the brother to Jaina, die defended the world against the first Horde invasion. He will be used later, while info from Zelling, it takes us on the road of collecting a powerful artifact. With this Scepter of Tides, the Kaltiran fleet would crumble before us, so we go out and pick it up. During this, the Alliance deals with the reliquary in Vol'dun, and they find out that the Horde has allied itself with the Sand Lane. These are a vampiric race created by the Lich King, which might come as a surprise to Horde members out there, as I don't recall that this information was actually shown on the Horde side. Either way, the Sand Lane are taken care of, and bombs are planted in Zandalar. Since the last time that the Alliance fleet came close to the city, it didn't exactly end too well, so a bit of preparation is in order for the upcoming battle. And while the Alliance focuses attention on Zandalar and the warfront in Arathi, fighting over dominance of Stromgarde, Tyrande and the Night Elves, they want their vengeance.
I wish things were different, High Priestess. But with the war raging in both Arathi and Zandalar, an assault on Darkshore would stretch us too thin.
My people need action, not excuses. We will not languish in Stormwind while the Horde defiles our lands.
I vow we will recover Teldrassil before the war is over. But we face dwindling resources and rising casualties. If I can ask your patience for a while longer...
No. We will reclaim our home now.
Tyrande...
We shall have vengeance for the slain, and show Sylvanas that she has not won. And if the Alliance will not aid us, we shall do so alone.
Well, perhaps with a bit of aid from their goddess alone. As Tyrande is done with praying and asking, she demands her goddess to stand with them. Invoking a dangerous, ancient ritual, she becomes the Night Warrior. Alun's wrath personified, and the Horde is quickly overwhelmed. They do manage to resurrect more of the fallen, even add some Dark Rangers to the ranks, at the cost of one of Sylvanas' Valkyr, and the Thanos is pushed into the retreat. Like in Stromgarde, the Battle of Darkshore, it plays out in a warfront, which gameplay-wise, it means that the battle, it constantly rotates. At one time, the Horde is on the defense, the next is the Alliance. But lore-wise, it has been confirmed that both the battle at Stromgarde and the one at Darkshore, they've both been won by the Alliance. And the Alliance also figures out that the Horde has stolen the Abyssal Scepter. So, to make entry into Zandalar safe for the fleet, they infiltrate their vaults and they steal it back, pretty much cancelling out what the Horde did before. Ah well, at least they still have the body of Derek Proudmoore. But this, it does mean that the road is open for the Alliance to conduct their battle of the Zaralor and murder every single one in the city. I mean, nicely ask their king to surrender, of course, and remove a powerful ally of the Horde. Now, of course, King Rastakhan is no pushover, and he refuses to surrender. His death, it infuriates the Zandalari, Princess Telungi most of all. The Alliance is on the retreat, in which Galvin Makatork holds the line to bide him some time. He's seriously injured by Gallywix and the Horde forces, so much so that he's forced to use his escape pod. This saved his life, but none of the healers can do anything for him. The technology is beyond us until we reach Mechagon and the Mechanomes. They are able to save his life and they make him king. And while Bane might suggest that perhaps they should reopen communication and try to go for some peace with the Alliance, the others don't want to hear it. Their war chief has already got a brand new plan in mind. All it's going to take is a little bit of torture, mind control and resurrection, turn Derek Proudmoore against his family and send him back to do damage from within. A step too far for Bane. Like Saurfang before him, he cannot believe what Sylvanas is doing to the Horde, but he can't just step away for the sake of his people. Instead, he decides to get Zelling in on his plan and go behind the war chief's back, rescue Derek and return him to his sister.
Sylvanas will kill you for this. And she may not stop with you.
No life is worth living if we cannot be true to our nature.
But Jaina would be proven wrong. It was not Bane that paid the ultimate price. Rather, it was Zelling in her grand display for all to see what it is that the war chief does with betrayers. Bane is in prison though, bait for her upcoming trap. In the meantime, the Horde forces, they stumble upon a bit of ancient darkness in the form of N'Zoth and Xal'atath, Blade of the Black Empire. The being inside the blade is released, while heroes of the factions, they're blessed with being N'Zoth's chosen. He thinks that we're special. Run along now, little hero. Bring this blade to your war chief. Upon touching it, her eyes darken and she stumbles into another plan. N'Zoth, he wants heroes of the world to come down to his prison so they can be used to set him free. Sylvanas, she wants her enemies to die, while Azshara, Queen of the Naga, she wants Xal'atath to take out N'Zoth and free herself from his service.
Just to be certain that once you have what you need, you dispose of your guests. Let none of the heroes escape.
I admire your ruthlessness, Windrunner.
Their plans are made, and with the blade in hand, Navanos leads us all to our doom. The waters open up, and the splendor of Nashatar is revealed. And while Azshara and Sylvanas, they did their best to kill us, ultimately it was N'Zoth's plan that worked out. The old god is released, while Sylvanas' enemies, they still live and breathe. Even worse, more amongst the Horde are starting to realize that the war chief is putting them on a dark path, does not have their best interest in mind, and considering how well their allegiance with the Alliance worked against Azshara, plans are made to do the same against Sylvanas. Meanwhile, Anduin had a little one-on-one conversation with Saurfang about the future of the factions. The old orc, he could have killed him on the field of battle during the siege of Lordaeron, but he didn't.
I hoped you would stop her.
I can't. Not alone.
There's no safe haven to be found, not for anyone, while Sylvanas is in charge, so Saurfang must do more than simply give up. His journey takes him to Outland, where former war chief Thrall is hanging out. It's unsure what happened to his family, they're not exactly mentioned, but we do see two very brave assassins trying to take out these super powerful orcs. Were they really banking on that element of surprise? Or was this actually Sylvanas trying to lure Thrall into her trap? Take care of an enemy that's perfectly fine with hiding out on a completely different world. I guess that his soul would provide a lot of anima for the jailer. But either way, the attack, it convinces Thrall that he does not get to hide. The Horde is in need of his aid once again. Together with the surprise aid of the Alliance, they manage to rescue Bane and make ready for the second siege of Orgrimmar.
Horde, Alliance. We've come to this crossroad again and again, Jaina. It always falls apart. What's different this time?
We are.
Even the war chief has them shore up their defenses. Gallywix burning as much incriminating evidence as he can. Both sides are ready to relive Mist of Pandaria, but that's not how the siege would end.
Sylvanas Windrunner! I challenge Mak'gora!
Traitor leading traitors. Why should I accept your challenge?
You want to make me suffer.
The High Overlord falls. I trusted you. And so did they. Death comes, old soldier. And all their hope dies with you.
You cannot kill hope. You tried at Teldrassil. You failed. Hope remains. You set us to kill each other at Lordaeron. You failed. Here we stand. You just keep failing. The Horde will endure. The Horde is strong.
The Horde is nothing! You are all nothing!
For Azeroth!
Saurfang found his honorable death, saving the faction that he loved. And while Sylvanas might have lost the Fourth War, it is clear to see that her actual plans, sending souls to the jailer and gaining more power, they worked out rather nicely. Enough so to one-shot Saurfang, no longer need the Horde, and even take out Bolvar and rip the veil between this world and the next. That part though is a story for the next expansion. This one leaves us with the Alliance and Horde being on better terms than before, facing the darkness of a released old god. The defeat of N'Zoth marks the ending of Battle for Azeroth, showing us where the factions stand right now, starting with the Horde.
The Alliance has sent word. They have agreed to the armistice. This bitter war is finally over.
At last, we can begin to heal our wounded Earth Mother, and the wounded Horde as well.
One question remains. Who will serve as war chief? Perhaps you, Thrall, would...
No. I told Saurfang I would not lead the Horde again. But perhaps the question is not who should become war chief, but whether there should be one at all.
Though the Horde has changed through the years, for good or ill, we have always looked to a war chief to guide us forward.
That legacy must end. The war nearly cost us everything. There is no place for a war chief in a time of peace. It is true. The Horde has changed. Our ranks have grown, and new voices have stepped forth to lead. This is what makes us strong. All of us, building a new future, together.
No longer a war chief. Instead, they go with a council. Hard to say who exactly is invited to be on the council, but it kinda looks like all of them are just invited to speak their mind and help rule the faction. Rokan seemed to officially taken over leadership from Vol'jin of the Darkspear Trolls. Gallywix has been replaced by Gaslow, while Lillian represents the Forsaken. Perhaps she will remain in that position, or perhaps they have other things in mind.
I received a letter from Lillian Voss of the Forsaken. She asks for my help.
Voss? I've read reports of the crimes she committed on behalf of her war chief. What does she want from you?
The Forsaken lost their queen. For many, it's the second time they've been abandoned. They feel adrift, alone.
But Kalia, none of that is your fault.
They are my people, Jaina. My father gave everything for Lordaeron. I wish to honor him and to prove worthy of the name I was born with. The name Menethil.
My lady, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I am Lillian Voss.
Miss Voss, I once listened to your father's sermons. That was long ago. Forgive me, I haven't introduced my companion. This is Lord Derek Proudmoore.
Lord Proudmoore, you should know that I played a part in the events that led to your undeath. I regret much of what has happened.
Did you see what they did to me in that pyramid? How they tortured my mind? Intended to wield me as a weapon against those I love.
I did not know at first. Once I did, I should have stopped it. Bane Bloodhoof showed the courage I lacked. If I could change the past, I would.
You didn't reach out to offer apologies. Why did you ask us here?
This champion witnessed your kindness toward Lord Proudmoore. How you helped him through his torment. Sadly, he is not the only one who suffered in the war.
Night Elf Sentinels? Why are you... by the light?
Many fell at Teldrassil. Some were raised into rage and darkness, turned against their own people. They too have been abandoned.
Death is cold, even for those who burn.
Kalia, I know the pain they suffer, the hopelessness. You must do something for them.
We will, Derek. Together. Greetings. I am Kalia Menethil of Lordaeron. I will do my best to help you. Please, come with us.
But that's not a certainty. For now, it seems like Kalia is taking those that have been turned recently, the Dark Rangers, under her wings. Or perhaps Blizzard is just testing the waters here. Personally, I think Kalia is going to need a lot more story development before being able to step into the shoes of a massive character like Sylvanas. Now, of course, it will never be the same, but as it stands right now, those that don't read the books or they didn't play a pre-stirring Legion, they see Kalia show up here in the game for the very first time. Having her go from that to instantly take over the Forsaken would be a little bit weird, but she also brings solutions to the story. Sylvanas abandoning the Horde and the Forsaken, it means that they don't have Valkyrie anymore, which in turn means that they can't add any new Forsaken to their ranks. Their people would die out, which might be what some of them want. The question as to what they're still on living for was also raised in the novel Before the Storm, so perhaps Kalia can give them a new reason, as well as a new way of coming back to life. As you can see, her death at the hands of Sylvanas, it clearly wasn't permanent. Anduin brought her body back to the Netherlight Temple, where together with Alansis and Anaru, she was brought back as this holy undead. Derek could even fulfill the role of Nathanos, but time will tell how they want to play out that storyline. Let's check in with the Alliance.
The armistice is signed. At long last, the Fourth War is over.
Not while the Black Moon still cries out for vengeance. Not until the Horde has answered for its treachery.
Further bloodshed will not bring back the fallen. We must renew our hope and forge a future for those who survived.
And when the next war chief musters an army, will hope save you if it is Stormwind that burns?
I know it's difficult to trust, but there are signs of change within the Horde. In place of a war chief, there is now a council, led by Bane, Thrall, and the others. I believe they can—
Your faith is naive, Lion's son. I will sign no treaty unless it is written in the Banshee's blood!
There is truth in her words, Anduin. Peace may be on the table today, but soon enough, the Horde will sound their drums and march for war. When that day comes, no scrap of parchment will hold them back.
The path to peace will not be easy, and not all will choose to walk it. But this is the only way to build a better future. I believe it will work, Ken. It has to.
Some characters might believe that things have changed between the factions, but people like Tyrande or Gen Greymane, they're not down with forgetting what has happened. The Horde was there when Teldrassil burned and the Night Elves lost their home and their people. The Horde was there when Gilneas was blighted and they lost their people. The blame is placed upon Sylvanas, and they will not rest until her head's been collected. Potential for the Alliance to be the aggressor for a change, if they ever want to flare up the faction war, which we all know is going to happen at some point. And in the case of Tyrande, we have it confirmed that she gets a story in the next expansion.
You spoke harshly to King Anduin, Tyrande. The Kaldorei can ill afford to shun the Alliance. They have provided aid and comfort to us in these dark times.
The young king is foolish to trust our enemies. Harsh words should be the least of his fears.
The Banshee Queen no longer leads the Horde. Those who do seem more inclined toward peace than war.
If the wolf is rabbit, it matters not who rides it. Sooner or later, the beast will bear its fangs.
You are dearest to my heart, Tyrande. I beg you, let go of the Black Moon's rage and embrace the Mother's light once again. I could not bear to lose you to darkness.
Know this. My hunger for vengeance will not be sated so long as Sylvanas Windrunner remains free. And until I know why Elune abandoned her children.
Tyrande, do not say such...
I will tarry no longer in this city of men. Let us leave for the bowels of Nordrassil. From there we will dispatch the sentinels to every corner of Azeroth. Let no one rest until the Banshee is found.
So yeah, that is how the 4-4 plays out, and where the factions stand at the moment. Now, one last juicy lore bit to end the video with. As we step outside, we hear about what some of our heroes are planning to do in the future. After war, one must celebrate life and the finer things that come with it. A lesson that Philistra is more than ready to teach Lor'themar.
Thank you again for leading our forces in Nazjatar alongside me, Philistra. Your insight and courage were key to our victory.
It was an honor, Lor'themar. I am relieved the war is finally over. Now you have no excuse to refuse my invitation to visit Suramar.
Well, I have been away from Silvermoon for some time. No doubt my people require...
Alderaan has assured me that Quel'Thalas is quite secure. And Ramath said that if you put up a fuss, he will teleport you to the Nighthold himself.
It seems my closest allies are conspiring against me.
Would it really take a conspiracy for you to spend time alone with me?
No, my lady. It would be my pleasure.
A suitably chivalrous answer, Regent Lord. There may be hope for you yet. Perhaps I can even teach you to relish the simpler joys of life.
Perhaps you can, First Arcanist. Perhaps you can.
I do recall how Lor'themar and Liadrin were once hinted to become a thing. But now it seems like Philistra is ready to share some Arkwine, shall we say. Some Arkwine with the Regent Lords. Then on the Alliance side, when I originally read this Datamine dialogue, I thought that the shipping was going to be between Valeera and Shaw. But now that we actually hear the lines in-game, well...
The job's not done yet.
The bitter war is over. Yet it seems few among us are in the mood for celebration. Our young king least of all.
A great weight rests upon King Anduin's shoulders. I fear his burden won't get lighter anytime soon.
And what of you, Shaw? What is there for Stormwind's spymaster to do in a time of peace?
You know as well as I that a true spy never rests. There is always a new conspiracy to uncover. That said, I may find a bit of time for myself.
Just yourself?
There is someone I would like to get to know better. But such things are best taken slowly, carefully.
Spoken like a true spy. Just remember, happiness is a fleeting thing. Find it while you can, Shaw.
Perhaps I will, Valeera. Perhaps I will.
And that someone is most likely going to be Flynn Fairwind, as he and Shaw had some spectacular adventures together during the expansion. On top of that, there's an upcoming book with the current title World of Warcraft Exploring Azeroth, the Eastern Kingdoms, that features these two as well. For over a quarter of a century, players of Warcraft and World of Warcraft, they've been treated to a treasure trove of artifacts, gear, weaponry and trinkets of both awe and amusement. Now, players can get an in-depth look at the items they've collected, and some that they might not have just yet. With exquisite art and a framing story involving the no-nonsense Matthias Shaw and the high-spirited Captain Flynn Fairwind, this book covers the continent of the Eastern Kingdom, from Stormwind to Stranglethorn, Plaguelands to Palaces, and all the lands in between. Can't wait to get my hands on the book, but we'll have to wrap up the video for today. So as always, thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you want some more details on all the things that we talked about today, then check out the Delayed Wild article in the description down below. You could also subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!